Hello and welcome to the Climbing Daily Thursday Tips Show. This is the final part of our tips series with mountain guide Adrian Nelhams, and today he's going through how to use a guide belay plate.
Hi, my name's Adrian Nelhams. I'm Director of the International School of Mountaineering. I'm also Technical Director from the British Mountain Guides, and I'm a mountain guide here living in the Lake District. This week we're going to be looking at direct belays and using a guide plate, some advantages to using a guide plate and also some pitfalls. So when we are doing a direct belay and we're using a guide plate, we need to make absolutely sure that our anchors are bomb-proof. We need two really solid anchors joined together and equalised, because all that weight is coming directly onto those two anchors. And even more so with these sort of modern day slings. There's no stretch or give in this system, so the weight from the person climbing goes directly onto our anchors. So we need to be really sure before we use that technique that our anchors are good and solid. And traditional climbing, we try and use the rope as much as we possibly can, and the reason for that is that we're soft on the gear that we place because the rope is dynamic. So please be aware that using slings, it does put a lot of stress and a lot of impact on those pieces of gear that you place, so they need to be very good. And first of all, I need to make myself safe on this sort of central point here, this equalised loop that's been made independent with the overhand knot and with a screw gate carabiner. Let's clip that into this central loop here, clip the rope into that, and you remember from last time we can grab the rope from behind, turn it, clip it back into that screw gate carabiner. We can do that up snug, and I can just pull both ends and that secures me to this screw gate carabiner. Now I need to put up the rope until it's nice and snug on my second. Now it's at this point I need to decide how I'm going to belay. Why would I not belay from my harness with a traditional method of a belay plate and just taking in the rope? And why would I maybe choose of using a direct belay at this point? And quite often it's because I might be operating with two ropes. I might be trying to speed things up for their movement. But the things to bear in mind with this is that if they're on steep ground and they're on maybe ground that possibly they might fall off on, a guide plate is really hard sometimes to release and actually lower them back down to a possible ledge they can start climbing again. So really give thought to when you do use that guide plate and when you don't. For me, it's about keeping momentum to the day, and typically it's on terrain that I don't think my friend or my partner's going to fall off. If I do think they're maybe going to take a tumble and they might want to be lowered down over a more awkward section, I'd probably opt for a more traditional belay method. But anyway, if I'm going to attach them to here with my guide plate, I take my belay plate off my harness. I can attach this belay plate from this point here into my central loop with a screw gate carabiner, spin the carabiner around, do up my gate, and with a bight of rope, clip that bight of rope into my belay plate, making sure that the climber's rope sits on top of the rope that I'm taking in. And that's important because the climber's rope sits on, and when their weight comes onto it, it jams that rope and stops that person from falling and locks the belay plate off. So a bight of rope clipped in there with a screw gate carabiner. Make sure that the screw gate carabiner is locked up nice and snug. And you can see now that with the downward force of the person falling onto that rope, you can see how it locks that rope against itself on that belay plate, and that's in our guide mode. And I can stand below that guide plate and I can take in the rope and pull down, take in and pull down, and so if they were to slip, they're locked off onto that belay plate like so. Be really careful. I always have a hand on this slack rope as well. Even when I'm taking in, I know the rope's going to lock off on the belay plate, but I have a hand on here. And the reason for that is that some ropes lock off better than others. If it's an icy rope, a new rope with a tight weave, something like that, then it might slip a little bit. So always have a hand on that controlling live rope there as you're taking in the rope of the person climbing up below you. You can see there that if the weight comes onto it, some belay plates are better than others in releasing that rope to allow them to sort of go back down and try that move again. The DMM pivot is very good at being able to release the rope, more so than possibly other belay plates. So using a direct belay like this, and specifically using a guide plate such as this, is a great technique to use to help momentum of the day, to help things flow during the day if you've got lots of climbing to do. There are some pitfalls. Don't use it if there's very steep terrain and you think your partner's going to be falling off or want to be lowered down to try that move again. It's really to keep momentum, to keep taking in that rope on that more moderate, maybe easier terrain for the partner that you're climbing with, and also be aware of the impact forces that are applied to the gear that you've placed as well. Okay, so thanks for watching. Hope you found some of these tips very helpful and useful in your own climbing. We're working with lots of these sort of things over the Arc'teryx big weekend, and hopefully see you out in the hills over the Lakeland Revival this summer, practicing and using some of these techniques on some of the Lakeland crags.
Thanks, Adrian. This series has been great if you're getting into trad climbing or if you want to refresh your skill set. So if you're interested in the rest of the series, there's a link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.